tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So welcome everyone to another Wednesday night Clear Mountain Monastery conversation, Dhamma Talk, reflections, Q&A. People who've tuned in before will have noticed that we've got this new intro, this kind of fascinating, almost Marvel-esque intro to Clear Mountain Monastery. Tanisabo made that, and yeah, it's a beautiful little zoom into Mount Rainier with Clear Mountain Monastery kind of appearing. So welcome everyone. Our evening's discussion will be about sense restraint, Indriya Samvara, restraint of the senses or the composing of the senses. This is maybe the fifth of our series on the Maha-Asapura Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya number 39. There's a link in the YouTube show notes below, and so people can follow along if you'd like. And why we're going through this discourse is because what we see here is a introduction to the gradual path, and this discourse is perhaps the most full explanation or introduction of the stepwise nature of the path. And sense restraint features somewhat in the, we can think of it as the beginning middle phase of this graduated path. So far, we've gone over the first step of this graduated path that we see in the Maha-Asapura Sutta is training in hiri and ottappa, which is the internalized sense of social responsibility or conscience and concern. Then we train ourselves in bodily purity and mental purity and verbal purity and purity of livelihood. And then next comes sense restraint. So these five that precede that sense restraint can be considered kind of the beginning of this graduated path. But really, it's not like you finish one phase and then you graduate to the next. It's more like we're developing these things in tandem to some degree. So it's not like you wait until your mental conduct is fully purified and you've got just the best livelihood or the best job you can imagine, the most Dhammic job, before you start thinking about how you're using your senses. But really we start from day one of practice. And that gets us to the question of what is a sense restraint and why is it important? So the senses, for people who are perhaps new to Buddhist jargon, are the six senses of Buddhism. So we've got the eye, ears, nose, tongue, the body, and the mind. In Buddhism, we speak of these six senses. And what is this restraint, this samvara? It is learning to look in a way, to listen in a way, to smell and taste and to touch and to think in ways which don't give rise to afflictive emotions. Really, the most important thing on the Buddhist path is the mind. So what we're paying attention to is, how are the way that we're using the senses, how is that having an effect on the mind? I will read the passage from the Maha-Asapura Sutta, which relates to Indriya Samvara. So, and what more is to be done? Again, this is in the context of other trainings that we've been doing. And what comes next is in quotes. So this can be thought of as a mental asseveration or an aspiration or a mental determination, or even could even be thought of as a mantra. But it is, in this case, we will guard the doors of our senses, of our sense faculties. On seeing a form with the eye, we will not grasp at any theme or variation by which, if we were to dwell without restraint over the faculty of the eye, evil, unskillful qualities such as greed or distress might assail us. We will practice for its restraint. We will protect the faculty of the eye. We will achieve restraint with regards to the faculty of the eye. On hearing a sound with the ear, on smelling an aroma with the nose, on tasting a flavor with the tongue, on feeling a tactile sensation with the body, or on cognizing an idea, thinking a thought with the intellect, we will not grasp at any theme or variation by which, if we were to dwell without restraint over the faculty of the intellect, evil, unskillful qualities such as greed or distress might assail us. We will practice for its restraint. We will protect the faculty of the intellect. We will achieve restraint with regards to the faculty of the intellect. That is how you should train yourself. So this is a Buddhist affirmation, and this is something which you can prime yourself with. When you first wake up in the morning, you can just resolve, today I'm going to aspire to use my eyes well. I'm going to use my ears well, and use my other sense faculties in a way which brings me closer to my Dhammic goal, which brings me closer to Nibbana, which is completely harmless towards myself or to others. And the reason we do this is that sense restraint really is it's kindness. It's kindness to the senses. So restraint of the senses is kindness of the senses. Sense restraint is restraint with kindness. So we are in a sense, sense restraint can work in two different modes. Yeah. So there is a mode of sense restraint which is most easily seen in a monastic context, with a monk's rules about actually not looking at something. So the first mode is actually like intentionally blinkering ourselves, intentionally not looking at particular things which are especially triggering. The second mode is to not necessarily avoid looking and listening to things that are triggering, but paying attention to them in a way that doesn't give rise to mental affliction, doesn't give rise to greed, anger, or delusion. So as I was saying, in the first mode, when you intentionally don't look at certain things. So in the monk's rules, or if people are keeping the 8 precepts, there are rules about not going to shows, not going to shows. There are rules for monks about not staring inappropriately at women. There are rules for nuns about not staring inappropriately at men. And there is a place for this kind of restraint. There are different roles that we have where looking at things is inappropriate for that role. So if you're in a committed relationship, it's a monogamous relationship. I remember Noah Levine actually speaking about how his parents would engage in what's called radical monogamy, where they would not only not look at other people. So the husband wouldn't look at other women, the wife wouldn't look at other men, but they would try not to even think of, certainly in like a sexual way, of people of the opposite gender. So it's not necessarily just a monastic thing, and it's not just something with regards to sexuality. I mean, if anyone who's ever tried to quit smoking, yeah, the smartest thing you can do is just throw away all your cigarettes. Get them totally out of your house. You don't want to see cigarettes, and you want to avoid places where you're going to see people smoking. Similarly, if you're trying to stop drinking alcohol, in an intelligent way, you blinker yourself. You don't drive by the pub. You don't drive by the liquor store. So this is that first mode where we are literally, not trying to look at the things which aggravate and excite unhelpful emotions. But that type of restraint, this first mode of restraint, is rather limited, and in a sense it's somewhat superficial. I mean, really, you can't just go around all the time. Even monastics, we can't just go around, fully blinkered like horses, all the time. There are times, there's nuns need to interact with men monks need to interact with women. It's and maybe an alcoholic might need to drive by a bar on the way to work. So this next mode of sense restraint is, it goes deeper, and it's much more subtle. The first mode is kind of like the sledgehammer approach. Yeah, you're just totally not going to look, not going to look, not going to look, not going to look, not going to listen, not going to hear, not going to whatever. Whereas this next mode is paying attention in a particular way. So back to the sutta, we will guard the doors of our sense faculties. It's literally doors. The dvara is the Pali. So these are, you can conceive of it, when the eyes are closed, the eye door is closed. Similarly, we have doors of the ears, doors of the nose, the nostrils, the mouth, etc. These are doors both by which things come in and by which the mind goes out. So right now we are practicing gutta dvara. So that is restraining or protecting the doors. We are putting up a sentinel, we're putting up a watchman at the different places where our bodies and our minds interact with the outside world. On seeing a form with the eye, we will not grasp at any theme or variation. So this is one translation of nimitta and anubhyanjana are the Pali. A more common translation is, we will not grasp at any sign or feature by which unskillful mental qualities will come up. So what does that mean? So the nimitta, or the sign, or here what's called the theme, is an overall impression. Yeah. So let's just take the instance of someone who's trying to stop drinking alcohol, having to go to work and passing by a bar. Yeah. So the sign, the nimitta, the theme of the bar. I mean, in one sense, the bar is just a building. It's made out of bricks. It's got lights in the windows. It's got letters written, to advertise what it is. It's got glass for the windows. It's got a door. So in a sense, all of these things don't have to excite, and they don't. I mean, you just take a pile of bricks, and that's not going to make anybody inherently, run off and feel like they have to, drink a 40 or something. But there's a theme, there's a sign, or there are things about that bar which make us think of drinking. There are aspects or themes of, the gender that we're attracted to, which make us think lustful thoughts. And with this mode of sense restraint, we're not paying attention to that. Yeah. So with the bar, I'm not going to pay attention to my memories that come up around this bar. So I'm not going to think about all my friends who used to hang out in this bar and how fun it was. That is a mental impression. That is a sign. That is a feature. That is a nimitta of this bar, which is pleasurable. I have pleasurable associations with that, with this overarching perception. It's an overarching perception. That's what the nimitta, that's what the theme is that we're talking about here. I'm not going to pay attention to these attractive and, in one sense, deluding perceptions, which the mind just starts rolling with. Similarly, I see someone of the gender that I'm attracted to, and I'm not going to pay attention to whatever it is, if it's the chiseled jaw or the bulging muscles or the beautiful legs or whatever it is. Because as a monastic, I've got vows that are aiming in a different direction, or as someone who's in a monogamous relationship, that there's a lot to be said for contentment with regards to matters of sexuality and sensuality. So that's the theme or the sign, the nimitta. The features, the anubhyanjana, are those like sub-perceptions, the impressions which are variegated. So overarching, I drive past the bar and there's this nostalgia. Yeah, that nostalgia, I think even more than that, nostalgia encompasses all of my great memories of hanging out with the guys and whatever. But all of there are subsidiary things which, make me think of, following along with this thing that I don't want to do. If it's cigarettes, I might think of the different brands that I used to smoke, etc., or how I used to hold the cigarette. So, but again, this is not the whole. These are just clouds. These are just memories that we've created. It's certainly not the whole of this thing, the bar or the place where we used to smoke cigarettes, or this woman or this man. It's not the whole of it's not even the whole of their physical appearance. There's all sorts of things, in general perceptions and more tangential or sub-perceptions, which we can pay attention to, which don't provoke lust, which don't provoke desire. Rather than paying attention to all the nostalgic thoughts of how fun it was, remember all the horrible nights of being sick and the dangerous situations we put ourselves in. Imagine all of the unhelpful situations that could happen if we were to follow such desires. So we don't grasp any theme or variation, any sign or feature, which would lead to unwholesome mental states. And the Pali word is, it's grahi, which literally does mean gahi, which literally means to grasp. So it's a very visceral, very grabby action. That the mind is doing. This is the mind doing the grasping here, and the mind does that, and you can feel it once the mind has latched onto a particular perception, a particular impression of something. It really does feel like you've grabbed onto a tool of some kind. So we won't dwell and grasp onto any theme or feature, by which, if we were to dwell without restraint over the faculty of the eye, evil, unskillful qualities such as greed and distress might assail us. So evil is a loaded word in English. The Pali word is papa, which does not have many of the mixed and weird connotations which the English word has. The the frightening and condemning connotations which the English word has. Papa, the harmful, unskillful qualities, akusa qualities, such as greed and distress, abhijja and domanassa. These are great words. So these are the two fields of mental landscape which we are trying to avert, which we're trying to not run into in our relationship with the outside world. And when we're able to do this, this is practice in daily life. So people who've maybe sat in a meditation retreat, or you've read some meditation books, especially if you're not born in a Buddhist country and the whole thing of being Buddhist, you're a convert Buddhist, or you don't even consider yourself a Buddhist. You've just gone to a meditation retreat. You've learned a technique, and the technique, that's what it is. You're not interested in the religion, but the technique, you do it for 10 days, 10 hours a day, whatever, 3 days, 7 days, whatever it is, and you see the potential of training the mind. But the retreat ends and you think, how do I do this through daily life? Like, do I just keep paying attention to the breath, right at the tip of the nose? Is that all I can do? Is that what practice in daily life is? And if you can do it, that's great. But our experiences, our lives, for most people, including monks, we live sensual lives. We've got this sensual body. This body is in contact with the world, and we're interacting. We're seeing things and hearing things and smelling things all day long, and really learning how to be more intelligent with these doors that we've got all over our body puts us in good stead. This keeps the mind upright, such that you are keeping the energy. You're plugging any possible leakages. You could think of it in those terms. You've sat in meditation in the morning and you've gotten the mind in a peaceful and good state to go throughout the day. But if you just, let your mind run out through the eyes and flow out through the ears, and just going towards greed and distress, or this craving and aversion, these two ways of bias, really, then you lose your energy. And by the time you sit down in the evening, or even by the time you get off work, forget about trying to meditate, you can just be exhausted, because even if you've just been sitting in a desk chair, your mind has been flowing out and running around, and it's exhausting. Whereas if you have restraint, you are paying attention to how greed and distress might manifest with regards to the things that you see and hear, and you are paying attention in ways that don't give rise to greed and anger. So we practice for its restraint. We practice for the restraint of the I, not giving rise to greed or anger, or what's here is grief or distress, which is domanassa. And what that means is actually the gloomy states of mind, getting bogged down. Bogged down is perhaps a perfect translation for domanassa. You don't let the heart be weighed and sullied and filled up with this kind of gloomish, this gloomy way of looking at things. Most of our examples have been in the way of craving, but similarly with aversion. With the first mode, you can, and there is a place for this, avoiding the people who you know will make you mad. If you can do it, if it's people who you have no responsibility towards, or who you have no reason to force yourself to interact with, then why interact with them? You can literally avoid them, not look at them, ignore them, not listen to those news channels, those news outlets, which will invariably just make you angry. You can, not touch things which are aversive, which are hot, of course, or painful. So if we have, so that's the first mode. But with the second mode, what if we have our boss, or we have our children, or our parents, or our spouse, and pretty much if you live with somebody, they're going to be annoying. You're going to find them annoying at some point in your relationship, because that's just how humans are. Because one, we get easily annoyed, and two, we're easily annoying, and because we don't really have a good control of our own minds. So if we have to interact with somebody, this is when sense restraint really becomes important. So not listening to your boss in a way which is going to give rise to fury or resentment or hatred. When they say, look, I told you, the paper was due this morning. When they say that, you don't have to listen to the aggression in their voice. You don't have to pay attention to the look on their face, which is utterly either frightening or just repulsive. You can pay attention to, realizing, look at them as just a frail human being with problems, just like you. You can, it can give rise to compassion. If this person doesn't know how to control their anger, then not only are they ruining your day, but chances are they're ruining other people's days. And nobody wants to be around people who don't have control of their anger. So how can I listen to my boss in a way which is, isn't irritating? And again, we can prime ourselves with this in the morning or just before a difficult interaction. There's another discourse where the Buddha has 4 other affirmations, which I find quite fascinating. The first one is Mame rajaniesu dhammesu chittang raji. So I will not let the mind be enamored with things which cause enamorment, or I will not lust after lustful objects. I will not be aversive towards objects or towards things which provoke anger. I will not be deluded by things which provoke delusion. I will not be intoxicated by things which cause intoxication. And you could say this any time of day, especially just before entering into a situation where you will be tested and you might be triggered. I aspire to not be moved towards sensuality and desire with regards to this thing which has in the past really provoked desire and craving. I can do that. Or I'm about to have to go tell my kid that they need to do their homework, and before I open the door, before I even knock on the door, I don't have to give rise to angry thoughts towards this object which elicits anger. Kid not doing their homework, that's annoying, but you can prime yourself, and it's a smart thing to do. And this is a very broad aspect of practice and a very useful way of practice, which can take you through the day. And like most ways of meditation, there's nothing Buddhist about it. I was just reading the Bhagavad Gita, and similarly, sense restraint is featured writ large in throughout the Bhagavad Gita, and certainly in Christian texts, certainly the writings of the Church Fathers. Really, it's hard to imagine a religious tradition that doesn't advocate intelligent use of the senses. So mostly we went into the eye and the ears, but similarly with the nose, tongue, body, and mind, we should figure out ways to relate to the things we see and hear and taste and smell and touch and think about in ways that don't give rise to aversive mental states. This is how we can practice in daily life. And when we do this, in the discourses, the Buddha says that the results of practicing sense restraint are unmixed happiness. Unmixed happiness. And what does that mean? That means happiness which is unadulterated, not sprinkled and flavored with afflictive mind states. And it's a happiness which is blameless, and a happiness which is collected. So those are some general thoughts on sense restraint, how we use the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, and how we can train ourselves such that, we will practice and protect the faculty of the intellect. We will achieve restraint with regards to the faculty of the different faculties of the senses. And this is kindness towards ourselves and to others. So leave the Dhamma talk there and open things up to questions from people. You can write questions into the YouTube chat box and hopefully be able to get to everyone's questions. Okay, so the first comment, so thank you, Ajahn, your words are helpful. For me, often when guarding the sense doors, there's a sense of aversion or tension. Yeah, I can relate to that. Yeah, it's a skill like anything. Often when for many Americans, at least for many people in there's sense restraint is not a virtue that most of us grew up with. Are very few Hollywood movies which have as their overarching moral virtue being that people should take care with the way that they look at things. It's just not something that we grew up with. So it can often happen that we don't know how to do it. So we take a heavy-handed approach to it. And yeah, you often see this kind of browbeating or literal kind of like, it seems like the faces of people when they first come to monasteries become more and more kind of concentrated right here in the middle of the eyes, because people are trying to figure out how to do sense restraint. And part of it comes from holding too tightly to that first mode of sense restraint, where you're saying, I'm just not going to look at that person. I'm just not going to listen to this music or whatever it is. And that kind of prohibitive awareness, or this awareness which just pushes away, that's like the definition of aversion. You're literally pushing away. So while there is a place for that type of avoiding that first mode of sense restraint, it can help to start having a healthier relationship with the second mode of sense restraint, where you do look, and you can listen, but just get more nuance in the way that you do it. Figure out what exactly is it about this song which is so annoying, or what is it about this song which is so so sticky that it just gets in the mind and won't leave. You can do this kind of investigation. It can actually become fascinating in a positive way, because when you realize what exactly the cues are, the signs and the features, then you can pay attention to different features, like and yeah, because obviously aversion and tension are not what we're trying to develop here. I mean, the Buddhist path is one of ease, and so I'll just give a bit more of an outline of what this gradual path looks like in the Maha-Asapura Sutta, in the Buddhist path in general. So we're training in body, speech, and mind. We get our livelihood together. We start training restraint of the senses. Then we start getting moderation in eating. We become devoted to wakefulness. Then we start bringing, or we continue bringing, mindfulness and clear comprehension into the way that we move throughout the day. Then, or along this whole time, we're also abandoning the 5 hindrances and cultivating the 4 jhanas, which then lead us to insight. And so it's good to remember the purpose. What is the purpose of sense restraint? And the purpose of sense restraint is happiness. The whole purpose of Buddhism is happiness and joy. And how does it do that? It's leading us more and more towards towards more subtle and less adulterated, less sticky, less mixed, and less kind of dirty, less happinesses which are just cleaner and clean burning. So yeah, we don't want to bring tension and aversion into this whole process, because that just confounds our attempts towards ease, as ease is the opposite of tension. There's another quote. So Ajahn, an East Coast monk I admire often insists that we stop listening to music altogether. Is that best, or is there a way to listen to with minimal enthusiasm? Much music is moving. Okay. Let's see. You guys can only see half of my face here. Maybe that'll be good for your sense restraint. Yeah. Some people, whether they're monks or not, really like to make emphatic statements. And yeah, there is something romantic and appealing about emphatic and black and white statements. They're really easy to follow. Yeah, just don't listen to any music. At least you can wrap your mind around it. There's like, okay, no exceptions. Okay, black and white, that's easy. No music. But yeah, I think the Buddhist sutras are vast, and the Buddha spoke to many different types of people, and the Buddha didn't always speak in a black and white manner. The Buddha could speak in a black and white manner. Yeah, there's no place for killing in a Buddhist context. There's no place for lying, really. But with regards to music, yeah, gosh. As monastics, we don't listen to music. That's one of our precepts. But that said, what do we do if someone else turns on music? Or what about the chanting? Certain types of chanting more than others are musical, but the chanting in most monasteries and traditional Buddhist countries are rather melodic. It's not like the kind of droning which some people knew, who didn't grow up in a Buddhist context, the type of chanting that they might be drawn to in attempts to totally remove musicality from their way of chanting. But see what is the effect that it has on you? Yeah, I imagine what this monk is pointing to is that there is a lingering effect. There are stickiness, certainly, about certain types of songs, certain melodies. And is it a good stickiness or is it a bad stickiness? If this monk, or if you are really cultivating samadhi, deep states of stillness, where you really want your mind to really collect and compose itself around a very particular calming theme, then even Mozart, even beautiful classical music, or beautiful this Imi Oi, I think she's a Malaysian, maybe Singaporean singer who has this beautiful metta chant. And but maybe for people who are very deep in samadhi, that's periods of that, it can be useful to eschew even beautiful, even Dhammic music. But for lay people in general who aren't keeping the 8 precepts, the Buddha didn't try to mandate not listening to music. And for many people, in a monastery, our lives are quite simple. We're not being daily confronted with very challenging people and challenging external situations. So perhaps we don't need as many props as people who are leading more engaged lives. If you're dealing with difficult people on a more regular basis, or very challenging situations and all the things that money brings with it, sometimes you need a steam valve, and music, especially if it's somehow Dhammic music or even just calming music, can be medicine, as you're intimating. So experiment, see how it works. What is the effect that music has on your mind, and is it positive? Is it negative? Chances are it's perhaps a mixture of both, and you really just need to see what you need at different times. So next question, can you speak about how sense restraint relates to letting go of a lesser happiness for a greater happiness? Yes, great point. This is related to, there's a Dhammapada verse, I think it's 300, Dhammapada 300, which is the wise person, on seeing that by letting go of a lesser happiness achieves a greater happiness, such a person relinquishes the lesser happiness, seeing the greater happiness. And exactly, this is what sense restraint is all about. I mean, you might think that when you first start, even the word restraint, you're like, I hate it. It's like handcuffs. You're putting handcuffs on me, Kovilo. I don't want it. I want to experience the fullness of life. Give me the full breadth of life. None of these shackles. But really, there are more refined levels of happiness than just taking in everything all the time. The mind can become very, very subtle. The mind can become very, very refined. And that's, Rick, I wish, this should have, basically for any future conversation that I'm having about sense restraint, this needs to be the foremost kind of framing of sense restraint. This is for happiness. This is for better and better forms of happiness. So thank you for bringing that up. And this will be the last question. We just got a minute, unfortunately. We'll be switching over to Zoom, so people can go to Clear Mountain Monastery and find the Zoom link. I'll see if I can get a link and put that in the discussion. But our final question is related to Dave's question above. I've wrestled with reading fiction, but over time I've found Dhamma inside the stories, so that it's like learning from experience. Is this skillful? Again, see what the results are. I know monks who've had determination or vows, if they find themselves over-relying. So maybe this is another thing to look at as well. Like, to what extent is it a prop? To what extent is it a prop? And to what extent are you leaning on that prop? And if you were to remove that prop, how jarring would it be? And if it's a necessary prop, then fair enough. I mean, this is all about, in a sense, increasing and finding less and less harmful and more helpful and more subtle forms of happiness. So giving up, if reading takes you, is an escape or a means which lets you let go of some kind of coarser pleasure, then great, do it. And yeah, especially if you can find Dhammic themes in it, that's amazing. And it's just a good exercise to be able to see Dhamma anywhere. So